tankers, welcome back to my videos. I am Blitz, and today I'm going to be talking about the Tier 8 American Premium Heavy Tank that has just hit the stores yesterday, being the Chrysler K. Now this tank is priced at a very reasonable 8,000 gold, and today I'm going to be getting into the tank, whether or not it's worth it, how to run it, some of the weak spots, the excellent armor this tank has, how to use it, and of course whether or not it's worth the gold price tag. Now, I'm also, at the end of this video, going to be comparing it to the Object 252, just saying, which tank I feel is a better bang for your buck, as these are both heavy tanks, pretty good heavy tanks at that, so I'm definitely going to be getting into that at the end of this video. Now, I'm going to be changing the formatting style of my videos too. If most of my older subscribers, if you're watching this, I hope you are, but you're probably used to me talking about the statistics at the beginning of the thing, or the video, for a couple minutes. I'm not going to be doing that anymore. If you guys do like that, I'm going to have a little poll pop up you can see right at the top right corner of the screen. You can click yes, I like the new formatting, or I don't like it. That way I can know whether you want me to talk about the statistics, or you want me to talk about the tank, its weaknesses, its strengths, other than its stats on paper, because I feel stats on paper are misleading and that really they're not as good as you think. Also, I just want to say something real quick for people that said it's hard to penetrate the cupola of an Object 252U. There's an example of how easy it can be if you know where to aim at it, because you can saw that object was face-hugging, he was playing the tank correctly, and I was still able to pen him with only 198 millimeters of penetration. It did look like a tricky shot, but if you can aim it right at that top of the turret, it will always go in 100% of the time. And I really don't know any tier 8s that have less than like 180 millimeters of penetration with the top gun. Now, into the tank and talking about it, you can see here I'm doing one of the best things you can do in a rear turreted tank, and that is side scraping. However, this is one of the better tanks at side scraping in the game because its sides are completely flat at 90-degree slabs, which means that, unlike the VK72 Tier 10 where it has that round pulsating thing at the end of the tank where you can shoot it and has it as a weak spot, this tank doesn't have a weak spot on the side. It's all just one flat plate, and it's sitting at around 115 millimeters thick, which is really good because that means that you can pretty much auto-ricochet all AP rounds, all APCR. You can even bounce 80% of all heat shells fired at you if you're pretty much sitting this tank at an 80-degree angle, just enough to peek your turret over the back of the tank. Because one of the things this tank is really odd at is it's a very large vehicle, which means that you're able to back it up just a little bit, turn the tank to the side a teeny bit, keeping your lower plate hidden and shooting enemies really easily. And I'll show you a better example of that in the next video. But you can also see that that LTTB was trying to get away from me, he was trying to flank me, maybe try and get behind me. But this tank is ridiculously quick. I'm not sure why it has such a good engine power and power-to-weight ratio, but you can see I'm literally going at 40 kilometers per hour here when I just press on the gas. Already 20, 30, I'm already sitting at 30 kilometers per hour. I'm even going uphill very quick. And this tank has an excellent power-to-weight ratio, and I'm not sure why it's so quick. It's literally like running a T-54 Mod 1, but with better armor, 10 degrees of gun depression over the sides of it. Now, the front of it only has 6 degrees, but when you're using it for side scraping, it's very good because you can just peek it over the edges of the tank using that 10 degrees of gun depression. You can see here this VK100P is a very tough tank to penetrate. However, I'm side scraping it as much as I can, making it a very hard shot for him. He's going to pull out, not angling his turret. I'm going to slam the APCR right into his tank. And again, here, I'm going to make sure that this KV-5 can't hit me using this dead tank's carcass. Are we going to get it in? Yes, we are. Slam that shell right in his tank. Now, right in the next replay, I'm going to be bringing up the armor profile. I'm going to show you guys the video of it, of course, as I usually do for armored tanks, that you guys can really understand how to run it, where to run it, and, what the best side-scraping angles are at this tank. Now, as you can see, this is the armor profile of the tank, and it is a pretty well-armored beast at that. Now, this tank is very big, so that lower plate is a pretty easy shot if you can land your shells in it. But if you're hiding that lower plate like you want to be on a building, this is one of the toughest tanks to penetrate in the game because, as I said before, the angles on it are completely flat on the side, which makes it just awesome for ricocheting shells all over, everywhere. Now, the upper plate of this tank is sitting at around 290 millimeters thick, so it's pretty much 300 on the upper plate. So the only tanks that are going to be able to penetrate the upper plate of the Chrysler are Tier 9s, like the E75 or any Tier 9 tank destroyer. Some Tier 8 tank destroyers like the RHM are going to be able to penetrate it, but this Object 252U misses his shell because of his not-so-great dispersion, hits me in the track, and I'm able to slam a shell right into his huge gaping lower plate. And you can see now I am side-scraping like a beast on this building here. And you can see it really just works out super well because they will just ricochet every single shell off the edge of the building. Look at this. They cannot penetrate my side no matter what. And I here can just slam shell after shell into that Object 252 because this tank, even though the gun doesn't look spectacular on paper, and this is why I don't want to talk about statistics on paper anymore, is because what it says on paper and how it actually runs are two different things. This tank actually has a very nice damage per minute, and the aiming time on this gun is really nice. And again, you can see another ricochet right on the front of my tank as I'm running it the best I can here, wiggling it back and forth. Because, again, as I said before, one of the really odd things about this tank is how quick it is. It's just ridiculously quick on the turning speeds, and I'm not sure why that is. You're pretty much able to wiggle this tank so immensely that you can probably ricochet 50% of the shells fired at you from a Tier 8 tank. And you can see still, I'm using those 90-degree angles to the best of my ability. That Tiger II gave up aiming at me. That's how thick the armor is on the sides. And the turret, you may say, well, the turret might be a weak spot. Well, the turret is also, sitting at 279, 342, 380 millimeters thick all over it. You're never going to penetrate through that turret, even with a Tier 9 tank destroyer, unless you're running like the WZ-111G FT. Now, there is a cupola on the top of it. You can see that. But this tank is a very tall one at that. And when it's very quick, you can just wiggle that turret back and forth. And really, you're never going to have to worry about that cupola getting shot. Yeah, I barely ever get hit in it. I don't think I can actually remember the last time somebody tried hitting that spot. It's really just not worth it. If this tank's rushing you, you have a much better chance of shooting it in the lower plate. Now you can see here, we have a Dracula. And look how ridiculously I can turn this tank back and forth. I'm just going to wiggle it. Now I can chase him down. Look at this. I'm literally keeping up with a T6 Dracula. Even going uphill, I'm pretty much almost able to outmaneuver him. Now, unfortunately, I let my auto-aim just trail a little bit behind his tank, and that does end up getting me to miss the shot. But it really won't matter because this tank, first of all, doesn't have a very bad amount of hit points. It's sitting around 1,500 hit points, and I would suggest to run the hit point buff, not the armor, because the sides of this tank are based on the shell normalization characteristics of the sides, which means that it only matters on how much of an angle you put this tank at to where the AP shells will ricochet and the heat shells will ricochet off. So if you buff the armor and you put on the armor enhancements, it's not going to change how many shells you bounce in this tank. Your lower plate's still going to be weak, and your cupola is still going to be weak. So don't put the armor buff. You definitely want to run the more hit points. You definitely want to be able to survive another shot in this tank. You can see that Dracula has no chance of penning me, and I have such a nice little accuracy here. Now, I don't know what happened to that shell. You definitely saw I was aiming at him. It was a clear shot on him. Still missed. Now this T-71 says, oh, well, this is a big, slow American Heavy. I can flank him. Nope. Able to turn my tank as quick as a full-speed moving light tank. Again, this Dracula thinks, well, this is a slow-moving Heavy. I can outflank him. He stops, tries to juke me. I still get the shot into him. Clear him, bounced 3,015 damage, dealt 3,632. And here's the last tank, boom, snap the shell right into him, 3,900 damage caused. This is just an excellent tank in my opinion, really. But you do need to know how to run it, how to angle. If you're not great at this game and you're new to it, this isn't a spectacular tank for you, because first of all, you need to know how to use the gun correctly. If you spam APCR in this tank, you're going to be doing 25% less damage than this game I did here, and you probably would have lost it. And that is one big thing to keep in mind. However, as a little disclaimer, I just want to say don't get misleaded by the replays I'm showing you, because I know the tank is excellent. I'm going to tell you whether or not it's worth it. But real quick, I just want to say don't get misleaded by any YouTubers' videos on the tanks. If you were to watch Meadsy's or Fugit's or even mine, we show the best of the best replays to showcase the tanks. And that can give some of you guys the wrong perception of the tank, feeling that it's completely overpowered and broken just because we're showing you these completely overpowered games where we were able to overcome the entire enemy team and fight them all off. However, the secret about this tank really is that if I were to play it against tier 9s, it would have been a completely different battle. I would have had to play it completely different, a lot more cautious, because it really doesn't have enough penetration to be able to fight tier 9 heavies. Like an E75, the lower plate on an E75 is 250 millimeters thick, which means that if he just angles that lower plate a little bit, I will not penetrate it, and that E75 can easily load a PCR right into my upper plate, penning every single shell. So you definitely need to remember that this tank is not spectacular. By no means is it overpowered, to be honest. It may look overpowered, but I don't feel it's overpowered. But is it worth the 8,000 price tag, and is it better than the 252 for the bang of the buck? Personally, I feel it is. I think this is one of the best deals that have hit the store in a while. 8,000 gold is an excellent offer. You know, I would pick this tank over the T-34. I would pick this tank over the T-26E4 Super Pershing. And you may be asking why. It's quick. It's a very quick tank. It makes the T-26E4 Super Pershing seem slow. Not to mention, it's got a better gun, in my opinion. It's definitely got better armor. Overall, I think this tank outclasses the T-26E4. And that is one really cool thing about it. Not to mention the T-34 is a slower tank. It's got a definitely well-armored turret, but they're very different playstyles. And if you like a more fast-paced, super aggressive, in-your-face playstyle, this tank is definitely up your alley. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. As always, if you did, make sure to smash that like button. If you didn't, hit a dislike. Let me know in the comments down below why. As always, hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.